Hi, I'm Chip Rogers and welcome to the AAHOA Educational Experience. We are wrapping up our three-part series on social media, and we're going to finally talk about mobile applications as well, because this is the next big step, as they say. And with me this week, three experts in the field that will bring us a lot of information you've absolutely got to have. So we'll start with the guest to my left, Pedro Colasso. He is the president and CEO of Guest Centric. To his left, Josiah McKenzie, who is Director of Business Development for Review Pro, and Gene Quinn, who is the CEO of T-News, that's N-O-O-Z, tnews.com. Gentlemen, you've been with us for a couple of weeks. Thanks for being back again this week. In our previous shows, we talked about social media. What is it? We know the big names, TripAdvisor and Twitter and Facebook. And maybe there's some of our viewers who are saying, all right, you've convinced me. I'm getting left behind. I've got to engage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hire my cousin's nephew who I know plays around on the computer to do this for me. I'm going to bring him in here and give him a computer and a desk and tell him to take care of it. Obviously,
maybe not such a good idea.
Not such a good idea. But it highlights that hypothetical highlights the fact that a lot of people think, well, this is just another chore I've got to add to my long list. So I'll just do it in my part-time, my spare time, which I don't have, and this will all be successful. That also is not a good recipe. You want to hire people who know how to do it, right?
I think, first you got to figure out what you want to do, and you should talk to experts that do this for a living to figure out what you want to do. And then, even if you want to use labor that already exists in the hotel, as we were saying last week, there's people in the hotel that already do customer service and that already do marketing. They probably need to have, some tools that help them do that, because there's many social networks. It can be quite painful to go through all of them and figure out what to do. But there's tools like Guest Centric or like Review Pro and others that help you do that. So I think that you really should look at the market and talk to a few experts and then figure out what to do.
So Josiah, when you sit down with someone, I think as we stated in an earlier show, first thing you want to ask them is, what is it you want to accomplish and what is it you want to get out of this? I mean, to just say, I want to be engaged in social media is that's like saying, I want some food, but well, what kind of food do you want? So I guess you've got to drill down and figure out what it is what is your goal here, and then from that point you can build a plan.
You can build a plan, yeah, and you need to understand the goal, and once you've defined that, I think it's really about understanding people who know the technologies, and to your point about thinking about those technology experts, but also combining that with people who understand the brand or the hotel. And so you want to extend that experience that you're already providing onto the web, and it really requires those two teams or those two people these people with expertise to come together. And so think about building your team that way, and also think about what technology can do and what technology cannot do. Technology can automate, technology can aggregate, it can create reports, but there needs to be that human element, and whether that specialist is going to reside on the team of an agency or a technology partner or in-house, that's fine. But you have to think about these two technology aspects and then the very human service-related aspect.
And Gene, following up on that, Josiah brings up a great point. It's not just expertise in social media that you need. It's the combination of expertise in social media with what you're applying it to, which in this case is the hospitality industry. I mean, if you can do anything in social media, that's wonderful, but if you know nothing about the hospitality industry, that's not going to help you, right?
Yeah, I think there are some companies like Guest Centric and Review Pro in the mobile industry, in the marketing and media agency industry that really do specialize in travel. Some are specialists in consumer packaged goods, others specialists in B2B or healthcare services, but I would look for some expert advice with that expertise in travel, tourism, and hospitality. If you just let me put in a small plug for T-News, we occasionally write stories or have the industry write stories about 5, 10, 20 things that you need to think about in order to engage in a social media or a mobile strategy. So you might visit our website and search on some of our archives at some of that expertise that may be available at your fingertips. I know Pedro and Josiah have both written guest editorial posts for us in this particular market.
So on your site,
Gene has an excellent point, which is much of the information is online. So
right.
if you search for how to leverage Twitter for hotels, you probably are going to see 4 or 5 articles that may be very relevant and kind of give you at least a feeling for who you should engage with for the next step. Right.
Yeah, and make sure that you're getting expertise from people who have actually done programs and done things that have a measurable result. The internet is full of a lot of articles that look great, top 10 ways to get amazing results on Twitter in 30 seconds a day. But look at a trusted news source like T-News that builds a collection of experts that actually have the real world experience behind them, and then take advice from that.
And I think you hit on something extremely important. You know, in the old world of advertising and promotion, we're looking at billboards and travel magazines and things like that. You can get car counts and hope that somebody looked at it. You can get production counts and hope they're right, and you know that 100,000 magazines were produced. But in the area of social media, and of course with anything you're doing online, you can directly measure it, and you can have a firm understanding as to whether the investment you're making, whether it's resources, which include both money and time, if it's paying off. And that's the beauty of this, is with social media, you know, and you talked about it earlier, Josiah, you can try things and it's not just a guess, not just an anecdotal hope that it worked out. You can measure it and see if it actually did.
Sure, if you have a Facebook page for your hotel property, and you and your concierge staff or your guest check-in staff or your sales staff are personalities within that site, you can be very attractive to your customers as they visit your property and leave your property, and then come back and be a fan of your hotel, or like your hotel with special offers that you're offering. So you can see the traction that you're gaining from folks who you do know if they've been your customers.
Right.
And if I could just address a very common and dangerous mistake that I see in many beginning social media campaigns, I think it's looking at vanity metrics that have no correlation to business success. So looking at Facebook likes or the number of Twitter followers that you have, there may be a link to business success there, but I'm interested in looking at a tangible cost savings or an increase in sales that actually indicate that this is working for me.
Yeah, because Facebook friends don't put food on the table for the kids.
No,
right?
and it's not magic. I think some people think that, you know, oh, I'm going to have a Facebook page and, you know, my business is going to increase. No, it's not magic. There is a little bit of work involved, and you got to think through your strategy and what kind of deals do you want to offer them, because, you know, people are not going to book on Facebook if it's the same price or if it's more expensive than somewhere else, right? So you got to think through what's your sales strategy or your business cost reduction strategy by engaging in these channels, and don't trust the guy that says, oh, I'll build you a Facebook page and it's going to be all wonderful.
And particularly with Twitter, I know that I think I saw a report the other day where one of the famous people, they determined that 40% of their Twitter accounts were just bogus, or Twitter followers were bogus. So with Twitter, it's wonderful to have that big number up there, but if the people that you're tweeting with or following you have, you know, they're not interested in your product, you've accomplished nothing, right?
Right, but so for instance, we have a way that every time you create a promotion, it gets published on Facebook and it gets published on Twitter, and it's all automatic and it's wonderful, right? So, but that's only part of it. The real result is, was that promotion booked or not, right? Because if people are not booking through those channels, then you got to do something else, right? So I think, going back to Josiah, it's really, you got to follow the money, and if there's no money in it, then you should try to minimize your costs and engaging.
Yeah, I mean, there's only two sides to the ledger. I mean, you're either bringing in more money or you're reducing costs. And if it's not doing one of those two things, then, you know, I don't want to say it's a waste of time, but it's a hobby. It's not a business, right? All right, we've got to take a time out. We've got one more segment left, and I know we've been talking about it for weeks. We're going to talk about mobile applications, because this is critical. No longer do people only book sitting in front of their desktop computer. They're walking around town, you see them with their heads down, they're doing stuff on their phone, and these mobile apps are having a huge impact. So we'll talk about that coming up right after this. Welcome back. I'm Chip Rogers. This is the AAHOA Educational Experience. We are wrapping up a three-part series on social media, and we're finally going to talk about mobile apps. And gentlemen, when people think about mobile, let's define it for them. It's basically your smartphone or your tablet. And now with one of the phone companies who just lost $1 billion the other day, having a phone that looks about the size of a tablet. I'm not sure what it is anymore, but anyway, that thing you carry around with you when you're walking down the street has become a powerful tool in social media and, of course, for the hospitality industry.
Actually, mobile is probably the most exciting segment in hospitality right now. We actually launched our mobile solution about a year and a half ago, and we let it run for three months with 300 customers. And we actually figured out that people, especially on smartphones, have very different needs than when they're on the desktop. So the first task they wanted to conclude was actually to find the address of the hotel and to see it on a map and to get directions. So it was actually a customer service channel. The second thing they wanted to conclude in terms of tasks that, when they go on, was to call the hotel. So they wanted to find the phone number for the hotel just to call the hotel. And the third item was really to book a room. And in the booking process also, it was very, very interesting to see that 60% of bookings coming through smartphones are for same night stay. And 96% are for the next 6 nights, which means people that are on a smartphone trying to get to the website of the hotel, they're either trying to find the hotel, they're trying to call the hotel, or they're trying to book a room for tonight. And that's something very different than a normal website, and that's a very different, so you got to think different when you think about mobile.
And Josiah, to that point, I mean, again, a quarter century ago, you're going on a trip or you're traveling, just traveling somewhere, whether it be for business or whatever, you're going to call someone and you're going to say, hey, here's where I need to go. You set it up, you take care of all that, and you're going to do that like a month in advance. And now people are arriving at destinations using their phone and finding a place to stay that night. I mean, that's the world we live in.
Very spontaneous.
Which means you've got to be able to react to that, right?
Exactly, exactly. And I think what's fascinating about Pedro's research is that it's very action-oriented, right? So traditional website could be exploratory, maybe sharing some information. These mobile websites, these applications are all about the action. And so think about how to drive that action and what actions need to be driven, what are they asking for, and how do you deliver that?
And Gene, you talked about it while we were at the break, and that is that people in the past, the way that you traveled was you set up your entire itinerary for your entire trip, everything you were going to do, and you knew it before you even got on the airplane to head that direction. Now people are arriving, and maybe they do already have their hotel room, but they don't have anything else, and they're using that mobile app to plan out the rest of the trip once they arrive.
Less than 3 years ago when we founded T-News, you weren't seeing the pace of what Pedro just talked about hotel transactions that were happening post-flight to the destination or post-drive from their home. It's happening in destination now. People are using their smartphone to complete their trip while they're on it. And in some cases, you may find that when they call you during the day part in which they want to stay at your property tonight, they may have another property, the next exit down the turnpike, on hold, trying to get the best deal. So you need to be thinking about that as you're making your best deal packages available, because people are not necessarily buying impulsively, they're buying strategically in the moment.
And just to follow up on something we talked about before the show even began, you told me about an app that was out there, and I asked, well, I'll just go online and look at it. You told me it's not even online, it's an app. And I think that's important, that there are apps that are being made, obviously by the millions, for your smartphone that it's not online. This is an app you need to download, but that is the reliance people now have on that device in their hand.
Yeah, and in that case it has to do also with, because it's an app, it's kind of opaque pricing, so it's not on the internet, so they can give you a better deal because it won't, mess up the contracts that the hotels have with other, with other distribution channels. But I think you're right. It's like you got to be plugged in if you want to have access to certain types of deals. But also what Gene was saying, people are en route, making their bookings. And I just came back from California, where I was in a meeting with about 45 hoteliers, right? And one of the hoteliers asked me, so can I define my cutoff date, i.e. I don't want to accept bookings with less than 48 hours in advance. I said, well, you can do that using our system, but I would advise highly against it because the booking windows are shortening. And if you think that a lot of people are booking last minute, then you're just going to ignore a lot of business that's coming your way. And there's lots of studies that say that the booking windows are shortening. Google just came out with one saying that next year probably there's going to be more mobile bookings than regular bookings. So we'll see. It's a very exciting space to be in, and it's definitely something that people should be looking at.
And I think of my own travel experiences sometimes, and I think some people probably look at this and say, if I'm a destination hotel, if I'm a resort hotel, I see where all this makes sense. But if I'm an interstate hotel, is this really going to help me? The answer is yes, because I know when I travel with my family, we go all sorts of places. Since I have 4 kids, we take long trips and we don't fly that much. But we'll wait till we're driving down the interstate, and if we get to Murfreesboro, Tennessee, I'm going to get on my phone and say, which is the best of these interstate hotels? Which one has the best rating? I mean, so it's affecting everybody. No one is exempt from this, right, Josiah?
Right, no one's exempt, and I think that illustration really does a nice job of showing how this is a real-time environment. So by providing information that's location specific, if you're a larger brand or you have locations in multiple or properties in multiple locations, that becomes interesting. So just thinking about how you tailor that information to be as relevant as possible.
I want to go back to you for 1 second, Pedro, because you said something I think is critically important, and that is, this is, when we think about social media, particularly with mobile applications, it presents a new opportunity to bring in customers, but it also almost presents to us a new requirement that our business be able to react to those customers, because they're coming to us in a different way, and if we think we're going to operate the same way with the 48-hour windows, you're going to be out of luck.
Absolutely, absolutely. So people have to prepare for it, but the big advantage is who prepares for it now can really make a lot of money in the process, because I think in 2-3 years time everybody's going to be doing it. So, but jumping into it is not that difficult. There's a lot of ways to jump into it, and also from an operational perspective, if somebody walks in, right, a walk-in, you're going to take care of that walk-in, right? So this is nothing else than a walk-in. It only comes digitally.
It's actually a wider issue as well, not just about how you set your pricing and manage your yields. It's all how do you manage your customer. There's a concept floating around out there that you're going to hear more and more about if you haven't already, called BYOD, bring your own device. And I know it's a different direction than what we've been talking about the last few minutes. Customers are showing up as fully wired families. Mm-hmm. The 8-year-old in the back seat has a smartphone. The spouse in the passenger seat has a smartphone. The one in the middle has a smartphone. It's just as likely when you're traveling down the highway with your 4 kids that you're asking the one in the back seat to call ahead to ask where you can get a hotel.
Or to check out which has the best rating.
Exactly. So all of the hotel operators who used to have in-room entertainment systems know this better than I do, that people are showing up with their own entertainment. They're not paying for the stuff you have in the room. So things like Wi-Fi in your hotel, very important. Grabbing your customer's cell phone number at check-in, so the concierge or the front desk can be in touch with them if they made a request of you. I wanted the extra pillow. Can you give me a restaurant recommendation? It's not about stopping back to the desk anymore. It may not even be about calling them on the house phone. It may be about calling them on their cell phone and managing that customer relationship that way.
That is a great point. I mean, we talk about it in the field of education. You have these schools that say, we want to go out and spend all this money to bring all this technology into the classroom. And my response is, just tell your kids they can bring it in, because they've all got it already. You don't need to spend it. But I think it highlights something, Josiah, and that is, if you're a hotelier, your client base already has these tools that they've purchased, that they use every day, that represent an opportunity for you to contact and communicate with them on a continual basis. And so all you've got to do is make the connection, right?
It's making that connection. I think Gene really speaks to this interesting phenomenon where it requires a new technology infrastructure at these hotels. So it's bringing your own device, thinking about also total revenue management. How do you maximize the value of that customer, not only at the booking stage, but on property? There was some research that was released a couple months ago that indicated consumers are willing to pay more when they're on property, whether that's in a special upgrade or some sort of service or amenity. So think about monetizing monetizing that also ties into Pedro's point about thinking, okay, this is a different way of looking at revenue management. And I think probably Gene can speak to more opportunities there, but think about leveraging that form factor of these new devices. What new sales opportunities does this give us?
Well, just to that point, airlines and hotels need to think like merchants. Remember, the computer is not going to be your salesperson. The computer is going to be your point of sales, perhaps. Right. Your smartphone is going to be the point of sales. But nobody manages a restaurant at the cash register. You manage it with the hostess and the chef and everything in the middle. So think of how you merchandise your property when a consumer who you didn't know until 10 minutes ago when they were getting off the interstate shows up. You have to merchandise what also you have to sell in that moment. So your merchandising habits and techniques and marketing in those moments need to include that they have their own devices, you better have Wi-Fi, and you're not charging $34 for a room that costs $49. Those types of concepts need to be thought out before they get there. And they're often getting there in the last few minutes, so you better have thought them out.
Well, gentlemen, we are out of time. We could probably continue this conversation for quite some time, but the clock on the wall will not let us. I do really want to thank each of you for being with us these last few weeks to talk about this incredibly important issue, and I hope that our viewers have learned quite a bit, and if not, these gentlemen are available to share more. Gene Quinn, CEO with T-News, and Josiah McKenzie at Review Pro, and of course Pedro Colasso at Guest Centric. I'm Chip Rogers. If you'd like to contact me, you can do me the old-fashioned way. Email chip@ahoa.com. That's chip@ahoa.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next week.